For those of you who haven't met me before, hi, I'm Skylar. I'm a healer, predominantly theta healing and energy healing. I've been a spiritual teacher and a healer for over 10 years. And this is one of my favourite topics to teach. Please, I'll stop at different stages in between, but please feel free to just pop up your hand and I'll answer any questions as we go along. I'll also do channeling for people, so if they want direct messages and things from their guides or their angels, I'm very happy to do that as we add through. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I'll quickly explain a bit about what theta healing is and how it works, and then we'll go into the different types of soulmate relationships, the beliefs that you have that may be blocking those relationships from coming in. How we're going to clear them. How many people here have done muscle testing before? So we're going to be doing a bit of that tonight to remove some beliefs and to put some beliefs in. Okay, so I'm just going to do a quick round robin. I'm going to start at this side, and if you could just say your name and give a little wave, we'll make our way around everybody.
Andrea? No.
Hi.
Java.
Jara.
I'm sorry.
Tara. Tara.
Monica.
Monica.
Catherine.
Catherine.
Vivi.
Vivi.
Veronica.
Veronica.
Jenna.
Jenna.
Charlotte.
Charlotte.
Brian.
Brian.
Sandy.
Okay, perfect. I probably need reminded, but we'll get a feeling. Okay, so I'm going to just get moving. Just give me 1 second. I'm not used to reading and doing, so off we go. Okay. So, theta healing is a technique designed by Stibble. It uses the theta brainwave state to access the subconscious mind and the spiritual planes of existence, specifically the 7th plane, in order to access powerful instant healings, knowledge, and guidance. Typically, when you meditate, your mind begins to slow down. When it does that, your subconscious mind is surrounded by this bubble. In hypnosis, we call it the conscious critical faculty. When you relax, that protective bubble starts to come down. And when that starts to come down, you start to allow your subconscious mind to change the programs and beliefs that control whether or not you're able to believe new things. So if a man turns around to you in the street and says, "You're beautiful," most people will either smile or look away or shut down. And the people that smile have a belief in their unconscious mind that says, "Yes, I am beautiful, thank you for noticing." The people who shut down either have a belief that it's dangerous to accept compliments from men, or they have a belief that they're ugly, so they become uncomfortable. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And the conscious critical faculty is what basically connects the conscious and the subconscious mind. It's what connects the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. Because your subconscious mind is mostly your amygdala and the limbic system of your brain. And your conscious mind is mostly the prefrontal cortex part of your brain. Is everybody with me? Yeah? So as you relax and you go into theta state, you're able to access those programs that you have and able to release them and put new ones in. Theta healing is a big mix of things. So it includes healing, belief and feeling work, body scanning, readings, past life healing, ancestral and family healing, body healing, DNA stuff. And we achieve that healing through going into the theta state and accessing the different planes of existence. Okay, so what's unique about theta healing when it comes to giving and receiving beliefs and changing them is that theta healing believes that there are 4 different levels of belief. Now, I personally believe that there are 7, but we can have that conversation at a different time. According to theta healing, you store beliefs in different places in your ordinary energy field. And when we're doing the downloads, and the reason I'm explaining this to you guys is because I get more permission from you when we're doing exercises together if you know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Makes sense to everybody, right? You're a lot more open if you understand what's going on, and that means you're just as capable of saying more yeses as you are capable of saying more nos. So anything that's offered to you tonight as a download, as a healing, when I'm doing examples with people for healing specific things, take it on if it resonates with you. Don't take it on if it doesn't resonate with you. This is not designed to force anyone into anything, okay? So in theta healing, they believe that beliefs on the core level, which is beliefs from 0 to 7 years of age in this lifetime, are stored in the prefrontal cortex. So that's around this area of the brain. Most of it only grows in after you're born, from the ages of 1 to 5 years old, is the first time you expand your prefrontal cortex. Your brain nearly doubles in size at that stage. Most of it you don't consciously remember, but it's still how you relate to emotions, feelings, and how you copied your parents. The genetic level. So these are programs carried over from ancestors. Generational woundings, so I'll explain this more in a second, so, or added to your genes in this lifetime. So basically, you know how when you're the doctor and you can read in magazines, everyone here read Bruce Lipton's The Biology of Belief? Mm-hmm. Yeah? It talks about how your genetics and your chemistry are influenced by your emotions and by your environment. Now, if you go onto my Facebook page, there's quite a few of the studies and the actual videos of these studies showing you how it works and what they've been able to do in the experiments. It's really interesting stuff because it's really shifted our perspective as genetics as something that we're just stuck with to something that we have literally connection, communication, and are in communion with. Yeah? So basically, when people say, oh, you have the cancer gene or the Alzheimer's gene, or you have the monogamy gene, which is relevant for soulmates, or the polyamory gene, normally that's because on an ancestral level, people in your family have had the experience of being inside that environment and it served them in some way. And something in your environment has triggered that gene to become active. Does that make sense to everybody? Because you have a huge number of genes and a huge amount of DNA, more information than you could ever possibly access in this lifetime. So what becomes active or inactive is a product of both your thoughts, your emotions, and your environment. Yeah? Because sometimes if you're in a relationship with someone who's learning something, a gene of yours can become active so that you can then mirror that back to them if you've entered into a soul contract with that person. So generational woundings. So these come on in many shapes and forms, but the most common ones are famine, plague, war, poverty. So there are genes for these things, and you'll normally find that, like for me, I'm from Brazil, for example, so I had the famine gene, and I had the poverty gene, and I also had the plague gene, which meant that a lot of people in my family had experienced losing lots of family members through mass illness. In my particular vibration, it was through cholera and also through fever. But everyone is unique. Whatever illness was in the culture and the collective might still be inside your genetic imprint. That's why a lot of people are scared of doctors and hospitals. Okay, famine. In a lot of my family immigrated from Bavaria to Brazil. So we'd experienced, during the Second World War, because we were Jewish at that point. So we'd experienced a lot of hunger, and a lot of the collective consciousness in Brazil, because there's such a big gap between the rich and the poor, experience hunger. So in Brazil, even nowadays, if you lose your job, there's no social system like there is here. There's no NHS. There's no education system. So it's an option. So that was still active, and I had to close that gene down and replace it with something else. Does that resonate with anyone? War and poverty. So you can have let me explain it to you this way. So I have Brazilian DNA and I also had American DNA. Do Americans and Brazilians get on that well? No. Has America exploited Brazil quite badly sometimes? Yes. So do you think there was a conflict in my DNA between Americans and Brazilians? Yes, there was. Did I not go and marry an American? Of course I did. So I had to resolve that on a genetic level, and a lot of our conflict was resolved instantly after I did that. You'll find that you have a lot of that war sort of subconscious, whether actually war was declared or whether there was that energy of emotional conflict or financial abuse, because financial abuse is the cause of most war. If you look at why most countries decide to become independent, it's because of financial abuse, or political abuse. So it's still a very big thing, and it can be triggered in the genes. Also very common in conditions like autoimmune diseases, because the body is at war with itself. Okay, so it's trying to kill a part of itself. So it's trying to kill one aspect of its DNA or another part of its consciousness. But with soulmates, you can imagine, especially if there's cultural conflicts, if you, like me, marry someone from the opposite side of the planet, all that stuff gets brought up in the DNA to be resolved. Okay, so the history level of belief. So the history level consists of memories from past lives, collective consciousness that we've carried into the present, or are carried in the auric field. So this stuff doesn't just happen in past lives, it's happening right now. Look at all the stuff that's going on with politics, with Brexit, with Donald Trump. These political conflicts, and also on a past level, are still relevant today. So everything that your family's ever learned, everything that you've ever learned about how to handle these situations is stored inside your DNA. And if you're exposed to it, I remember being told, for example, about war being declared in Iraq in high school, and I had no reason to be afraid, but I remember locking myself in the girls' bathroom and throwing up. And now it makes a lot of sense, because the last time war was declared in my ancestors' path, we were in Germany. So it was that shock of bad things are going to happen coming up again. It was an overreaction for now, but for another lifetime it made a lot of sense. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah? The other thing that triggers a lot and that isn't up here is immigration. And that one was a major healing for me. So if your partner has immigrated, or if you've immigrated from another country, that's a genetic trauma that needs to be addressed. Otherwise, every time you want to move house, every time you want to go on holiday, every time you want to make a big change in your life and location, whether that's because you had kids or you want to move to another country, that same trauma can come up again and again and again. Does that make sense to anybody? Particularly relevant with men and women who feel like outsiders. No one understands them, they don't belong here. They don't feel like they're part of your family, they don't feel like they're part of your friends, normally that's because they have immigration wounding in their DNA. So you're trying to introduce them to your friends and they're keeping a distance, and they've got that I am different on a genetic level that keeps them separate. Also very relevant when you want to have children or make a long-term family with a soulmate, because how many people know in this room that normally families from different cultures don't like you marrying from someone from a different culture? Yeah, so on a DNA level, that's still very much there. So if you've immigrated into this country, you may find yourself having difficulty connecting with a soulmate because they're not from your culture. On a DNA level, you have that program: I must marry someone from the same culture, from the same religion, from the same space. Yeah, so you don't realize these things are there, but we can muscle test for them, and we can also dowse for them. I'll teach you some very basic muscle testing techniques tonight, so you can use them as we go along. And the soul level. So on the soul level, I'm going to talk a bit slower because I'm talking really fast. Basically, if your heart or your spirit was broken, and that can be through torture, slavery, homophobia, sexual abuse, or just sexual discrimination, imprisonment because of whatever happened, then you can carry that trauma. You can carry trauma and beliefs that transcend the body at the soul level. So you carry them in between lifetimes. This is also true for good things, such as those little kids that can play the piano when they're 2 years old. They're the gifts that transcend the physical level. They go into the soul, and people say, I don't know why I need to sing, I just need to sing. I don't know why I need to play, I don't know why I need to paint, I don't know why I need to heal. It's just there, it's in the bones, it's in the soul, are carried at the heart level. There's healings for this, but this is also very relevant for people who died in childbirth, which is what I was going to say about the history level. So around particularly starting families or having children, 85% of women used to die in childbirth. Okay, that leads to a lot of men who experienced birth trauma and who also deeply resented their children because of their mother passing away, and who then had huge amounts of sexual guilt for wanting sex in the first place. People who were conditioned for generations because of religious abuse that sex was wrong, and that birth and the pain of childbirth was a punishment for the woman by God. Yeah, very prevalent in Christian cultures. The idea that the pain was because of Eve having seduced Adam. So this is what leads to this. Sometimes I see people who've met their soulmate, and I had a client this week, for example, who was making love with a soulmate that they were really into, and then 5 minutes later, after they'd finished making love, the soulmate left the bed and went downstairs. And they were like, that doesn't make any sense. Why did they do that? That's sexual trauma. It normally comes from either birth trauma, in the sense of you having lost a partner, or around you being afraid of making that sexual, intimate connection because sex led in your brain to someone dying or to something bad happening. Does that make sense? Recently, especially the kids that are being incarnated now, I've seen quite a few kids wandering around with the plague one at the soul level because of things like AIDS. Or sexual. I used to see it quite often with syphilis, because a lot of the 6 or 7 generations ago, the mostly sexual transmitted disease was hepatitis or syphilis. So a lot of people who came to me because they were struggling sexually in relationships or going through a lot of sexual abuse had that belief in their brain that God was punishing them for being sexual or being sensual.
and that the experience they'd manifested in those lives where they died of a sexual illness, or they'd watched parents die and they'd gotten the fear that God was punishing their parents or they were going to avoid that. Does that resonate with everyone? Yeah? Okay. Any questions about these? Okay. So when we're doing downloads and I say to you guys, would you like these beliefs removed? So let's say you have a belief that says, I need to conform to the rules of my ancestors about marrying within my culture, my religion, or my faith. What I'm asking is, do you want those beliefs removed on all of these levels? Okay? And replaced on all of these levels? If I didn't tell you this, you'd probably think I was only talking about the mental level, which is why affirmations can take a while to work. Right? If you don't remove it on all the levels and replace it on all the levels, you only really remove it on the mental level, which for most people is the prefrontal cortex stage, but then it gets replaced from another level of the aura or of the energy field or another life, okay? So with theta healing, you remove it all at once and you replace it all at once. Okay, so the way our family thinks about romance, about soulmates, about relationships, it literally programmed our first level of belief about how we attract men, what is real or what's not real. You know, if your parents were romantic or not romantic, that's the first time you saw a man and a woman interacting together in a sensual way. Even before you can remember when you were conceived, that was their connection. Does that resonate with everyone? So all families have rules, their own rules and laws. Some are spoken, others are not. So these unspoken agreements are called tacit agreements. Okay, and this is often like, for example, you're not allowed to tell your, like lots of women, for example, common women is that you're not allowed to tell your mother that she's not a good mother, right? Even when she makes mistakes. It's like a tacit, unspoken agreement that you'll never ever go near that. But there's many kinds of unspoken agreements, like you'll never talk about money, you won't talk about sex with your parents. They're tacit agreements. They're agreements that are made completely through body language on a soul level and through conditioning, but your parents never sat down and said to you, it's not okay for you to talk to me about sex. You just knew, right, that that wasn't an okay conversation. You'll often attract people, particularly soulmates, who have other tacit agreements. So it's important to watch. This is where meditation comes in. This is where really connecting with the Creator comes in. Really witnessing yourself, because that's another part of theta healing, is that you witness things happening. You witness somebody being healed to completion. So one of the very important things to witness being healed to completion is all the tacit agreements. So tonight, is it all right if we just pull all the tacit agreements in your family? Mm-hmm. Yeah? And replace them with positive or unconditional love, because you've got a big variety, so I'm not going to go into personal ones right now. But you can muscle test later on. You know, was there a tacit agreement that women had to be quiet? Was there a tacit agreement, you know, that men had to make all the money? You know, was there a tacit agreement that I had to stop working if I had children? You know, was there a tacit agreement that I wasn't allowed to be attractive to men? Otherwise, you know, I'd make my mother or my father feel insecure. All these things can be there on a subconscious level and prevent you from attracting a soulmate in. How many people, when they meet a partner, think about introducing them to their parents in the first 3 months? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Do you or do you not think that's a tacit agreement? Mm-hmm. That you will keep your relationships and your sexuality secret and separate from your parents? Okay? So are you or are you not more likely to commit to a person if you introduce them to your family and friends?
Yeah. Oh God.
Sorry. Right? So it's some of these things are very subtle, but they're very powerful. Okay, so many of these rules and laws are constricting and keep us tied to a level of consciousness that our families are at. It serves us...
Sorry to interrupt. I just
right?
want to clarify what you just said, because that hit me quite hard.
Go on, I'm listening.
So, I'm the kind of person, I meet somebody and I can't wait to introduce them to my family and friends and do that stuff.
Yep.
But I'm terrified then, once I don't want to do the commitment bit. Once the commitment bit, the work starts, I'm off.
Okay.
So, is that, when you say, would that be some kind of tacit agreement about not wanting to commit? So I commit and then don't commit. I'm trying to figure it out.
You have a tacit agreement that, like, the people that you introduce to your family, your friends, have to be a long-term commitment.
Right.
Okay? And that's not the case. Like I've only had 4 partners, but all of them I introduced to my parents, and 3 of them weren't, marriage or long-term stuff. Does that make sense? And actually, it was my family, it was my friends that pointed out that they weren't compatible with me. and they help me figure it out, and they help me learn how to set boundaries. But for you, if you introduce them, then you have to. Does that make sense? And it's partly because, like, when I tune into you, it's instantly because you don't want to be made a fool of in front of your friends and family. Right? Is this idea of I don't want them to see me either getting rejected or rejecting someone else, and I want to make my own decision without having them control that environment. It's just pulling that belief that everyone introduced to your family has to be a long-term commitment, and teaching you that you can still be empowered and know your own boundaries, your own desires, your own beliefs, whether or not you like or don't like a soulmate, while staying connected with your family and respecting their opinions and having that collective approval. Would everyone like that one? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. So basically it served us at one point to abide by these rules and regulations, particularly when you're a teenager and you're first stretching out into your sexual world, into your relational world. You need to feel like you have independence and you have autonomy, and you don't yet. So one of the cutest things on the planet, because I've got two-step kids now who are teenagers, and you see that they go through this stage, and there are lots of different strands of adolescence, and I would recommend everybody Google these. They were come up with by a woman called Anna Freud, who was Freud's daughter, and she discussed adolescence in depth. And not everything she says is good, but some of it is absolutely amazing. And most of us had our adolescence completely psychologically neglected, but that's sexual and social interaction. That's when you learn how to become sexualized and socialized. So if that wasn't nurtured in a loving way, there's lots of things that are unfinished or confused, so you don't really know how to be a fully empowered adult, a fully empowered woman, or a fully empowered man. And when you're a teenager, like when you're about, believe it or not, when you're about 8 or 9 years old, you start to figure out that in about 10 years you're going to be leaving home. Right? So when you start having that chemical change, it's a very strong psychological urge to start separating yourself from your parents. And that's so clever. On a subconscious mind's level, it's not that you're acting crazy or weird or that you don't like your parents. It's that you've already started processing the grief of leaving home. Okay? And you get to do it in the safety of your bedroom while mum and dad are outside. Okay? The door may be closed, it may be your room, you may be saying private, keep out, but in your mind you know mum and dad are out there, or other grown-ups are out there, and you can pretend to be alone, you can make believe you've already made those changes, but if you ever need anyone, they're still there. Right? It's just that most kids don't know that they're getting that simultaneous grief of childhood and the autonomy of adulthood coming in. So they start to isolate themselves and spend more time in and of themselves. And it's the same thing with sexual, sexual moving forward. Most people, they have a boyfriend ages before they tell their mum or dad. And mostly it's not like a proper serious sexual boyfriend, they're just holding hands in class, or they fancy someone, or someone goes with someone else. And this is stuff you forget. I don't know the last time you guys sat down and thought about who was the first guy in primary school you held hands with, right? But that was the beginning of your sexual beliefs and the cultural, of your idea that it had to be something you could do by yourself. And when you're actually learning this, it serves you because you're learning how to be independent at the same time as having the support of your parents. As you get older, the idea of having to do everything social and sexual in private no longer serves. And it actually, most of our partners, if you've been with them for a month or a couple of months and you don't introduce them to your friends and your family, do they feel good about it? Mostly people, men and women, who say to me, I've had many clients say to me, I've been with my partner for 6 months, he won't introduce me to his friends, right? They feel ashamed. But so if you've still got those beliefs running from adolescence, those unconscious beliefs that, it's not all right for me to introduce, my partner to my parents like you do, because, they might control me, or they might take over, or they might say you can date this person or you can't date that person, or, you have to stay with them. Because a lot of mothers do that, particularly to boys. They're like, you can't break up with her, or you have to date him, or that families have standards or cultural beliefs that come in. And it keeps repeating in adulthood, so it causes problems. So as children, it ensured our parents took care of us, and as adolescents, it ensures they took care of us in ways that we weren't capable of now. So teenagers can be intellectually and socially matching in maturity to their parents, but they don't have a credit card. They don't have a car. They don't have the social skills to be able to move out and find their own place. They don't have the same legal responsibilities. So the imbalance of power is still really great. So these healing downloads that are coming up next are kind of catered to around this theme. So often when you have those beliefs, the complaints that I get are people I've tried to connect with just aren't on the same page. You know, we're going in different directions, we don't want the same thing. And the core belief is I'm lonely in my relationships. Who's felt lonely in their relationships? Yeah? So would you like that addressed and healed tonight? Yeah? Do you think that's going to come up even when you're in a healthy and loving relationship if you have that? Does it suck to be feeling lonely when you're sitting next to the person you love on a couch? Oh God, yeah. So the other one that can come up is, I feel ugly, I'm unattractive. This one, I know it's sordid of me and I know I'm sadistic, but it makes me laugh so much. Because it used to be one of mine. And have you ever noticed that you never actually go up to the man in the room or the woman in the room that you think is the most attractive? Yeah, you just don't do it. You see them and instead of going towards that person, you go towards their friend. And you don't even know how you got there. You know, you might be sitting in an event and you think, oh, that guy's really attractive. And then you think, okay, I'm going to walk up to them and say hello, or your friend introduces them. And the moment you get introduced, all you can do is look at the floor or look somewhere else, right? And this also causes a lot of problems when you're in relationships, because this belief that I'm unattractive or ugly is at the root of most or all jealousy. Okay? Because when your partner's feeling attractive and they're finding other people attractive, if you feel ugly or unattractive, you're going to go into competition with those people. Right? If your partner's feeling attractive and you're feeling attractive, it's a horny moment. That's why a lot of people say jealousy is sexy. They're like, and it's very Italian thing. It's a very Mexican thing, because they don't go into they're attractive, I'm not attractive. They go into, ooh, they're feeling attractive, now I'm feeling attractive too. It's the energy of there's attraction in the room, right? Instead of there's that feeling of everyone's unattractive. Because if you feel unattractive, you're going to think that person being attracted to other people is unattractive. Does that make sense? If you feel you're attractive when someone else is interested in other people in the same room, the thoughts that run through your mind, and this only happened to me for the first time a couple of years ago. Before my current husband, all my boyfriends were not that good to look at. Because I had this belief hardcore. I was a pretty chubby adolescent. So every time this belief would come up, you're sitting there, they're like, okay, I'm attractive, and you're going, I'm unattractive. So there's a complete disresonance from the start, so you don't feel like you connect with them. And you see their behavior of being attractive, of attracting other people, as a betrayal and as them being unattractive. Okay? So you project your unattractiveness onto them. When the truth is, if you're with an attractive human being, that's what you asked for. Right? You asked for someone who was attractive and who enjoyed being attractive and giving attraction to other people. So that's a very, very deep belief. It's way deeper than being superficial. Really, really, really a big deal for a lot of women because of the constant media bombardment. You have to be beautiful. To be beautiful, you have to be sanitized. You have to have your hair perfect. You have to, be really thin. You have to eat a certain way. You have to act a certain way. I've cleared this belief so many times, and I tell people this one for women, I'd say you can't walk from here to Old Street Station without at least 15 billboards or pictures telling you that you are not skinny enough or beautiful enough, and that you're not enough, and that you're ugly in some way, because they're trying to sell you something, right? If you don't think you're attractive, then they can give you something to make you attractive. So this is one I would do every week. If you're a girl, every week. If you're a guy, it's the status one that you have to do every week, because that's the constant bombardment with the cars and with the status and ownership that comes up all the time with the collective cultural unconscious. This one's more for men than for women, but I see this one a lot in women when they want to have children. So a lot of men have this belief, I need to be financially free before I can have a soulmate. They won't settle down, they won't commit long term until they have enough money to create a family or a space. Hi guys. For women, they normally won't have children until they're financially stable, right? So I've seen a lot of women who feel like they're never ready to have kids because they haven't ever made £1 million or whatever. It's whatever. You can muscle test what your limit is for having kids and what your limit is for getting into a soulmate relationship. A lot of relationships end because of financial problems or abuse. Okay, so this is a very important one to look at, what your beliefs are around finances and soulmates. Two biggest things people fight about in relationships is sex and money. Okay, so your beliefs around that are so important when it comes to manifesting a soulmate relationship. This is the other one. People I love always leave, abuse, hurt, control, criticize me. And the list goes on. There are many, many different things people always say. But if you have those, that belief that the people around you always hurt you, it's because you have a core belief that you're a victim. okay? And the underneath the belief that you're a victim is the belief that you can't take care of yourself. Other people know how to take care of you. Other people should be taking care of you. But a part of you is not grown up. It's still a child. It still thinks that it needs to be taken care of. Not in a healthy way, in a complete dependence way. Does that resonate with everyone? Whereas when you start, this is why the inner child healing can really come in very powerfully. It's because you deserve to be taken care of, to be cherished. But that feeling of, oh my God, if they go, I can't take care of myself, that's not an adult feeling, that's a child feeling. It came from when if your parents leave, you can't financially, spiritually, emotionally take care of yourself when you're 4, 5, 6, 2 years old, right? It can come, like for me, I got this when my mum, she ended up in hospital while she was giving birth to my younger sister for a couple of weeks. And I had that belief, I can't take care of myself without her. And it really caused a lot of damage. Okay, so I'm quickly going to tell you about the types of soulmates. Okay, so there's a few different types of soulmates. Vianna Stabile has an actual book on theta healing and soulmates. I'd recommend it. It's very good. You can go on to Amazon and buy it. I have a book which I wrote last year. It's called Soulmate Shadow Work. It's out on Kindle if you want to have a look at that as well. It combines everything that I've learned over the years about relationships, and it normally answers the crazy questions, thanks to that one over there, that come up when you're in a relationship and you're going, why the hell isn't this working? When you really love someone and you really, you know that they're the one and it's still not in alignment or it still isn't matching. Marianne Williamson, bless her, she always, does everyone here know who Marianne Williamson is? She's a spiritual teacher. She's really big in America. She teaches the principles of A Course in Miracles. But one of the things that she says in her events about soulmates is that you don't want to meet your soulmate before you're ready, because it's really a pain in the ass when a relationship ends and it's not the right person. It's absolutely devastating to have the relationship or destroy or sabotage the relationship with the right person. And you're sitting there going, I know they're the one for me. I know that it would have worked out. And that's one of I think one of the hardest, but also one of the most empowering things about awakening spiritually, is that you realize that it's like when you first start doing the principles of A Course in Miracles or theta healing. Anybody ever notice that things get worse before they get better a little? Yeah? And partly it's because you're actually recognizing where you're making the mistake. You actually think, oh my God, I effed up. Whereas before you were thinking there's something wrong with that person, what the hell was wrong with them? You're at the level of consciousness where you're not aware enough to have been able to change the behavior, but you are aware enough that you did something and that you're at cause for the consequence. Does that resonate with everyone? And that's when cause and effect really starts to become difficult, because you're raised and aware enough to realize, oh, actually, I'm screwing up that much and I'm screwing up that often. Whereas when you're in denial and before you're awake, you don't really think of yourself as screwing up. You always are constantly projecting, so it's always someone else's fault. The reason you're not in a relationship is because everyone else is a dick. It's not because there's things you need to work on or ways in which you need to grow. So when you first start waking up, it's really good to actually, do the downloads that say, it's safe for me. I know how to change, and I know how to see the truth about myself and love myself. Because most people, when they see the truth about other people, if that person isn't where they think they should be, they start to judge and criticize and fix. Because when they see the truth about themselves, they start to judge and criticize and fix. The truth itself doesn't hurt. What hurts is our response to the truth. Does that make sense to everybody? So if you have that belief that the truth hurts, when you see the truth about other people, you are going to hurt them. Okay? Particularly if that isn't in alignment. So guys, would you like that pulled, the belief that the truth hurts? Yes. Yeah? And would you like it replaced with Creator's perspective, definition, understanding of truth? And how to hold your truth and other people's truth with love, integrity and boundaries? Yeah? Okay. So different types of soulmate relationships. So twin flame relationships. In her soulmate book, she says that twin flame relationships are people who are exactly like you. I don't agree with that. I do think that they can be very similar to you, but normally twin flame relationships are your exact opposite. So this is where things can get really interesting, because you're either going to learn and grow really fast, or things are going to go boom really fast. Because this person, this soulmate of yours, is literally the complement to who you are. Which means if you're very feminine, they're very masculine. If you're very soft, they're very hard. And it's because together you have the opportunity for the fastest amount of miraculous growth that's possible in this lifetime. Okay, but if you have the beliefs that growth and change are difficult, that growth and change are hard, that the only time someone really loves you is if they can take you exactly as you are, then that relationship is going to be incredibly difficult for you. Does that make sense? Because on that level of relationship, that person loves your soul and they love who you really are. They don't have any concept of your ego being who you really are. And I remember having this fight with Todd when we first got together. And I can't remember, we were discussing, I think we were discussing something around anger, around jealousy, and he turned around to me, and we'd only been dating about 2 or 3 weeks at that point, and he said to me, if you can't handle me as I am, you know, then this isn't going to work. And I said to him, you think this is who you are? Like, this is not who you are. Like, I have no idea what the hell this is, but this is not you. I was like, that's why I'm pissed off. It's like you're showing up as someone else and you want me to connect. Right? So that's at that level of relationship, inauthenticity, even when you're lying to yourself, it doesn't work. That person just sees right through that stuff. But it can be very hard because you don't really, especially if you've been through a lot of trauma, or if you've had a childhood where your parents were very critical, suddenly it triggers all your stuff. Right, of I can't deal with authority. And it's also equality between the genders. Who thinks that on a genetic level you can have a conflict between men and women? Yeah? How many people have heard there's a war between the genders? Or a war of the sexes? Or battle of the sexes? Yeah? So at a DNA level you can have a conflict between men and women. And twin flame relationship, if you have that, it's a party. It's a fireworks show. Okay? Once it's resolved, it calms down very, very quickly, but it's exactly geared towards healing the whole of the human collective consciousness of the inequality, not just between men and women, but between our belief that our ego is who we are, that our behavior is who we are, that if someone doesn't like you exactly the way you are, and they don't let you get away with abusing yourself or not loving yourself, then there's something wrong with that relationship. Karmic soulmates. So, karmic soulmates are people who you've known in past lives and who you have unresolved issues with. Everybody heard of the story of Henry VIII killing his wives? Yeah? Who thinks that in past lives, especially if you were in an affluent family, this whole I'm killing my wife, abandoning my wife, maybe taking on more wives, or men in reverse. Let's say in India, for example, you're going to, they used to burn their wives when their husbands died. Okay? That's when this stuff comes into play. Does that resonate for everyone? Yeah, it's quite a big deal. It's not a small deal. Normally, when you really, really loved. Everyone's seen Gladiator. Yeah, it's a really good film. Have a go. But basically, in Gladiator, what happens is he's an army commander. He goes off to war, and he's got a very strong loyalty from the people. So politically, they move to. They basically give him an unfair charge, so he gets basically imprisoned and become a gladiator, and they kill his whole family at the same time. This stuff actually happened, right? He spent that whole film dreaming and longing for his family. Okay, many people in other lifetimes have had that happen to them. So often you can meet a karmic soulmate and be absolutely enamored with them. Karmic soulmates are not just people you've done stuff wrong with in the past. It can be you've been separated because of different reasons. Does that resonate with everyone? But there's often very, very strong feelings. You have had multiple incarnations with this person. Normally there's a very high level of compatibility, but there's very deep also unforgiveness, resentment, and normally a cultural divine life purpose. So normally these soulmates come together, and you'll see couples that have a similar purpose around healing sexuality. So they get together and they're in tantra, or they get together and they're in animal healing, or they get together and they're for being missionaries. It's because their life purpose on more than one lifetime is being balanced through this one. It's like they're doing double the work in one time, so they can balance everything out. Does that resonate with everyone? Incompatible soulmates. How many times have you seen someone, thought that they're the right person, or you get into a relationship with them, yeah, and you can sometimes even see or remember the past life connection with that person, and it just doesn't click, nothing works out. Yeah, that's because that person is not on the same path as you, period. They're not going in the same direction, they don't want the same thing. I had this with my second boyfriend. He was really, really lovely. He really was a genuinely decent, loving, kind man and a human being. But he didn't want to be a spiritual teacher. He didn't want to have anything to do with healing. It wasn't his life path. Does that resonate with everybody? Yeah, he was still a really loving and deep soulmate of mine, but he was never going to go where I was going to go. Okay, so my life path and his life path were in conflict. This can happen a lot. And normally if you decide to stay with that partner, you have a choice to make. You either live your divine life purpose or you don't. Right? And I see many, many, many women make the choice not to all the time. Because often that person, you know, if I was still with that partner, he's very big in the computer industry. So my life would basically be traveling around helping him with his stuff. Does that make sense to everybody? So he needed a different person with a different purpose, or he needed me to give up my life purpose for that to happen. The equality soulmate. So these soulmates come from a base inequality normally in understanding of other people. So when you bring in an equality soulmate, it's because you have a belief that you're superior or inferior to other people. And that entire relationship is geared about learning about the sacredness of equality in the universe, that all living, breathing things are equal in the eyes of the Creator. Okay, so a lot of people have the belief, you know, that men are better than women, women are better than men, I'm better than animals, plants are better than animals, this is a higher vibration, this is a lower vibration. This is where you see soulmates getting into arguments about, I'm an indigo but they're not, or they're not spiritual enough, or I'm vegan and they're not vegan. They're learning about the equality of all different paths and that all roads lead to Rome. Does that make sense to everybody? And they're also learning that it's not our job. I get a lot of people saying to me, I love my soulmates so much. I absolutely adore the ground that they walk on, but they're struggling and they're really having a hard time, and I keep trying to help them and I keep telling them what they need to do, and it doesn't seem to work. And you really have to say to them, that really has very little to do with loving another human being. Right? Telling somebody what to do, teaching them, fixing them, has very little to do with loving a man or loving a woman. Does that make sense to everybody? Mm-hmm. Yeah? There is, in our culture at the moment, is teaching a position superior to the person learning. Yeah. So if you're constantly trying to teach someone something, do you or do you not have the belief that you are superior to the person you're teaching? Yeah? Do you or do you not think that's going to cause conflicts? Do we like having sex with people we think are inferior to us? So very quickly it gets into a teacher-student dynamic or into a parent-child dynamic. And normally a lot of healers have the equality relationships at least twice. They keep on dating clients. That person comes in, and because they're scared of charging, or because they're scared of setting up their practice, suddenly they've got these men, thousands of them in a row, that have got these big issues. Because they won't say, oh, that's a client, that person needs their issues solved. They just date them, and then they try and heal them as they're dating them. And they try and heal them into equality. It doesn't work. It doesn't work because the lesson is not that you can or cannot heal your partner. The lesson is that that person is already perfect, whole and complete. That people don't need fixing. That what heals them is the belief they're perfect, whole and complete, right? It's like trying to manifest something from a space of lack. If you're trying to manifest love in a relationship from belief that the person is broken, that's going to take a long time and be very ineffective. The two beliefs are in conflict. The compatible soulmate. So in Vianna Stambul's book, she talks a lot about the compatible soulmate, or the most compatible soulmate. And this is someone who normally you can spend either all of your life or most of your life with. This person is pretty, they're strong where you're weak. And they are comfortable with you the way you are. So even if you never change, or rather if you change a lot, they're still going to stick around. Also, they used to be known as kindred spirits. They really just get you, they really just love you the way you are. They've really understood that them loving you is the most important thing. And it's not like that they're settling for anything, they really get it. They get it in their hearts that you're enough. That even if nothing changes, they really understand that. I was watching a documentary yesterday called Everyday Vegan Stories, and the first a story in the film is about this lady who married a cattle rancher, and halfway through their marriage she became vegan, and this man loved her so much that he converted his cattle ranch into an animal sanctuary in Texas, right? That is a compatible soulmate. Okay, that is someone who, it doesn't matter what way you go, they love you the way you are, and they will go out of their way to show you they love you the way that you are, and they will make a life bigger with you as you go. Does that resonate with everyone? Yeah. They do exist, they are out there, but it's things like that that really make you go, that is a that's what a compatible relationship looks like. These are important because once you know what you want, it's easier to attract it in. When you don't know what you want, it can be like, I want my soulmate, and then many different kinds of people can show up. Does that make sense? Including friendships that aren't really what you're after. The one slide I didn't make is also, don't forget to manifest sexual compatibility. Yeah, you don't want to be with someone who is really got a high sex drive and you feel low, and you don't want to be with someone who has a low sex drive if you have a high one. It causes a lot of problems. So divine life partner, soulmate. So this one is when you manifest someone who has a similar divine life purpose to you. And that happened with me and Todd a lot, particularly in the beginning. You know, when we met, we were both teaching lucid dreaming, we were both teaching astral projection, and we were both on a very deep unconscious level wanting someone, because our life was our work, who could practice it with us, who would be around while we were doing it. I have a lot of people come to my workshops who say, yeah, you know, I really want a soulmate, but they don't do the same thing that I do. They don't have the same practice that I have. Yeah? So if you want somebody who does the exact same thing as you, let's say you want to, like for me, if I want to marry another theta healer, or if I want to marry at that point an astral projector person, you know, you're looking for someone who is a divine life partner soulmate, okay? Because they're looking for the same life plan. Otherwise, you have these stages where someone has to give up something of themselves or go in different directions. I meet a lot of very successful men and women who are really in love with their soulmate, but they've had periods of their life where they've had to go off in different directions for months or for years because they've got different things to do, and then they come back to each other. Yeah, often leads to open relationships or open marriages because they love each other a lot, but they can't be around each other because they genuinely have other things to do on this planet. It's more common with the younger, like my sister's generation, so about 5 or 6 years younger than me, than it is with our generation, but it's becoming very, very common. Anybody have any questions about these? No, everybody okay? Perfect. Okay. So,
Actually, can I ask?
yeah, go ahead.
So obviously when you're wanting to manifest a soulmate and all that kind of stuff, and obviously there's so many options, if you like, when you're, because they always say like be specific and all this kind of stuff, but it's like, well, I've got a list there of going, well, what am I asking for in a way?
Yeah.
Because am I asking for that twin flame, or am I asking for someone who's the divine life partner? I don't know that.
Yeah.
I know that obviously I want someone who gets what I do, but I don't know if I want someone who then does that as well. But if I met that right person who was doing it, you know, so I don't really know what I'm asking for, and it gets quite confusing when there's so many options and which one's the right one.
So would you like to know how to choose the right thing for you, even when there are so many options available?
Yes.
Yeah? Or would you like to know that it's safe for you to have a whole smorgasbord of different choices and still remain calm and not be overwhelmed?
Okay.
Yeah? And be faced with all those different choices and options and still feel whole and calm and like you're enough and like you haven't missed out because you didn't take another option?
Yes.
Yeah? So a lot of men and women are like that. They're like, if there's too much available, then we just kind of shut down. We're like, it's too stressful, I can't do it, leave me alone. It happens a lot with money, because when people start their financial education, like you kind of guys are kind of starting their spiritual relationship education, there's so much new information. And then most people have two options, either shut down or absorb the information, but they don't know what to do with it. It's like, I've got this, but I don't know how to apply it. You know, I've been to the seminar about business, but I can't actually take action on what I've learned. So it really helps when you're like, okay, you know, that's actually something I can learn, is how to have so many options and still be able to do what's right for me, and to know clearly what's right for me. And it's all right for me to know what's right for me. You know, because a lot of people will also try and make you feel like you made the wrong choice if you don't choose what they think you should choose. And you see this weird the spiritual games people play. Is going to be probably a book in the future, because there's a lot of spiritual superiority, and they're like, oh, you don't have your twin flame? Well, then you're not right in the right soulmate relationship. You know, you chose the wrong one. Or you know, you're not in, you know, you haven't really, you've got, you know, a person who's from a part, oh, that relationship's karmic, you know, it's probably going to end soon, right? It's stuff like that that's not really loving, it's not really intuitive, and it's that feeling that somehow we're missing out. Just know that you're in the right place if you're there. You know, if you are with whoever you're with right now is perfect for your spiritual growth. Perfect. Creator doesn't make mistakes. You know, wherever you are is perfect, and you can change things. You know, relationships can start off as karmic, and you can incorporate different aspects of learning with that person, so long as they want to. You know, that's one of the most important things I'd say, because a lot of people make these lists. And one of my theta healing teacher in London, her name's Anna Kitney, but there's a few other people in the group who are also absolutely amazing healers. And one of them's called Kat, and she does a lot of family constellations and family healing work. And she's from Russia. And I was speaking to her about this stuff, and she was like, "You need to tell your man what to do." And I was like, out loud, and she was like, "No." And I was like, she was like, "Before you manifested the relationship, did you or did you not at least think about what you wanted?" And I was like, "Yes." And she's like, "Well, when you're in a relationship, at least once a week, you need to think about that again." And I was like, "Oh," and she was like, "Energetically, that's telling him what to do. It's letting him know, updating him that you've changed, you've evolved, and also putting that positive energy in there, that excitement that good things are coming. You know, before you're in a relationship, how often do you imagine how wonderful your life will be when your partner gets there? All the time. How many people stop doing that when they're in an intimate relationship? Right? And then because they don't know how to get that feeling of excitement they used to get about fantasizing about a partner that wasn't there, that they actually start fantasizing about a new partner. They're like, "Oh, maybe if I manifest a new soulmate," just to get that connection with the fantasy of falling in love and romance, and because it's lost for them when they're in a monogamous relationship. So would you guys like to know how to do that? Yeah, how to think in that way with the romance and the fantasy and the sensuality and the surprise and excitement and, "Oh my God, this person makes my life absolutely wonderful," when you're in an intimate relationship as well as when you're single? Yeah, because that's one of the best downloads I've ever done for my relationship with my partner. You can muscle test which soulmate is the best one for you right now. You know, and you can also, and I do this with when people are doing private sessions with me, or when they're more advanced. So normally people who are teachers or who are already healers themselves, I will, if they're coming to work with me on a relationship, you can muscle test how many years it's going to last, and you can change it if you want it to last longer or shorter. Everything is within your conscious ability to change. Does that make sense to everybody? And you can actually muscle test for what's the issue that's going to come up. Is it going to be abandonment? Is it going to be anger? Is it going to be, jealousy? And resolve it before it has to come up in that way. Because no one gets up in the morning and thinks, "Oh yeah, I'm going to break up with my partner today." You know, maybe about 1% of the population have that conversation. For most people, they get up and they have a fight, or they discover that their partner was cheating, or something happens and the relationship ends, right? But most people don't get up in the morning and think, "Oh, today I'm going to get divorced," or "Today I'm going to break up with my partner." Normally it happens through the subconscious mind engineering a situation when it's actually made up its mind months before that it was going to do that. You know, and it's been emotionally preparing you for that long. Has everybody here heard of Milton Erickson? Yeah, he's a very, very famous, like the father of hypnotherapy, and he used to do this in his class. So he used to get a girl and a guy, and he used to get them to write down the date at which they were going to end the relationship with their next partner, and when they were going to get married, and forget about it. And then 5 or 6 years later, when they were when they were a hypnotist, or when they would open the letter and it would be accurate. So the subconscious mind knew long before they knew what it was going to do, and sometimes even the name of the person they was going to end up with. Now with theta healing that makes a lot of sense, because we know there's soul contracts and agreements long before you're even conscious of them. But with theta and with hypnosis, you can access the information before it happens. And you can consciously remake decisions that weren't for your highest or best good. Because there's better ways of ending a relationship than cheating on someone. You know, and there's better ways of, you know, dealing with relationship problems or lack of attraction in a relationship than making someone break up with you because you won't treat them with respect or give them significance or understanding. So it's just upping that level. Would everybody here like to know how to end relationships in a healthy way? Mm-hmm. Yeah, with honesty and with integrity and without having to hurt the person that you're with. Because some of the decisions I regret the most in this life have been things I've done in that regard, unconsciously, without knowing. Okay, so these are just a couple of downloads. So we talked about the family stuff a bit earlier. So I'm just going to read these out, and if you'd like these, just say yes at the end with a bit of excitement. I like excitement. Okay, so would you like to know that you no longer need to abide by your family's rules and regulations when it comes to your soulmate and your personal intimate relationships? And to know that it's safe to step out of these rules and feel that it's possible to know how to know when to, and to live your daily life without referring back to these relationships subconsciously?
Yes.
Yeah? Would you like to know you can still be loved and accepted without having to follow these rules and laws?
Yes.
Would you like to know that your family, your soulmate and your partner can get on if you're soulmate and you don't follow these rules and laws?
Yes.
Yeah? Would you like to know that you can create a healthy new environment for your family or future family, to know how to, what it feels like, to know that it's possible, to know that it's safe with a new soulmate?
Yes.
Yeah? Even if you don't follow these rules?
Yes.
Yeah? Would you like these rules to be brought to your conscious awareness in a gentle and kind way so that you can alter them consciously and easily?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah? Would you like to heal any damage caused to you by being a part of a family with these rules, regulations and laws?
Yes.
On a cellular and on a DNA level?
Yes.
And on an ancestral level?
Yes.
Yeah? Very good, you're all bright and shiny now. Oh, that's a good one. Would you like to attract a soulmate into your life who's also cleared these patterns?
Yes, please.
Sometimes I get downloads as we're moving. Okay. So here's some more. So would you like to separate your parents' projections of who you are and who your soulmate is, and know Creator's truth about who and your soulmate are?
Yes.
Yeah? Would you like to know you can live without viewing yourself and others through the lens of your parents?
Yes.
Would you like Source's truth on the parts of you and your soulmate that you see as unacceptable?
Yes.
Would you like to know how to love and accept all parts of yourself and all parts of your soulmate, to know that it's possible, to know what it feels like, to know that it's safe, and how to do this on a daily basis?
Yes.
Right. See? Even more bright and shiny. I'm already wearing glasses, but it'll be sunglasses soon. Okay. So, any questions about those downloads? Are everybody happy?
Yes.
Skylar,
Yes, Dan.
when you're, because I've done theta before,
But you don't like it.
sorry?
You don't like it. There's like a big block. Nothing's going in. Can I move it?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Go on. Keep going.
My question is, like, you're not actually going, you're not actually doing the I thing. So are you, when we say yes, and you know, you're not sort of flickering your eyes,
Yep.
is it, are you in that state already?
There's two ways that I know this. One is because I have a friend who actually now still has. I sell light machines as well. I have I'm part of a company called Pandora Star, and I was hooked up to this EEG for 2 days with Todd, and Todd went first and then I went. I spend most of my time in Delta and about half of my time in Theta. Whenever I'm in meditation, I'm in Theta, and it's actually like you can read it. The I thing is, I wouldn't say it's for beginners because that makes me feel a bit superior, so I'll change that. But it's normally for people who are reassuring themselves that they need some sort of physical sign that they've reached that state. The other thing that I have that most healers don't have is I have a machine that literally entrains your mind with light. So every day I can go on that machine and teach myself how to get into a theta brainwave state. Right? So most other healers who are working with theta don't have the advantage of that. So they're still learning what it feels like, and they'll also drop in and out of a theta state. But that's what I was doing in there while Todd was very kindly giving you guys a seat. I was literally connecting myself up to the 7th plane, clearing the room, putting downloads into you guys into the sofa, making sure everybody was happy, sending energy to everybody. So no, you don't have to roll your eyes up to the ceiling and make your eyes flicker to be in theta. Not necessary.
I agree with that, yeah, because I also do theta healing, and you can always be connected in that state once you always align with that, so it's true.
And you said I was blocked before. Does that mean that all the downloads you did before didn't?
Well, you know how I said, can I remove the block?
Yeah.
Well, now they're all gone in.
They've all gone in?
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, most of them have gone in. You can muscle test for what's gone in and what's not. Would you guys like this presentation afterwards? Can I send it out to you guys in an email in the group? Yeah. If you're not on the meetup, send me a message on Facebook and I'll send you the link. Some of you came through Facebook. Some of you came through Meetup. But if you're not, I will send you the the presentation, but you can muscle test whether the downloads went in or not, okay? And sometimes they won't go in because you have normally it's because you have a block, but this in theta we normally do, theta and all other kinds of healing, you have to do a bit of digging work sometimes. Sometimes there's a core belief that's much deeper under the surface. So what you'll find is you'll probably leave here tonight on a high. Your relationships will go really well for the next couple of weeks, and the ones that you didn't have any resistance to will stay in and become stronger, but the ones that require deeper work, you'll be able to muscle test and they'll come and they'll go. Particularly like the I'm attractive and the ugly one, if you don't remove that on a like a weekly basis, it comes back because you're getting so much bombardment from the media all the time. Does that make sense to everybody? Resonate with everyone? Okay, so this is a very, very important one because everybody in this room at the moment that I'm feeling into is a healer, okay? So this is relevant for everybody in this room. Normally I get a mix, but this is like a class of like advanced souls, so we're going to stick with that. Healers often resist setting healthy boundaries in their soulmate relationships. They often believe it's wrong to exchange love and approval for good behavior, okay? This is a common theme I've worked with lately. I've often found that the underlying issue is that they've experienced suffering and pain connected to rejection by their parents, okay? And they don't want another person to experience the same rejection and pain. So they resist setting healthy boundaries and they feel guilty when they do. Anybody have that problem? Mm-hmm. Yeah? The reason that we do that is because we don't really understand the purpose of a boundary. So when someone is testing a boundary, they're testing two things. They're learning the virtue of integrity, and they're learning integrity, they're learning safety, and they're learning truth. Okay? So if you don't set a boundary with someone, you're lying to them. You're not keeping you or them safe, and you're not telling the truth about how you feel. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah? It's a passive thing to not set a boundary. You just don't say anything, you just don't do anything. But if I'm in the room and someone is getting raped, I'm still doing nothing, and doing nothing is something. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay? In A Course in Miracles, they say there's no such thing as a neutral thought. And this concept is very powerful in boundaries. There's no such thing as a neutral action. And love is not always passive. No can be the loving response, or yes can be the loving response. So if you come to my talks, I cover this a lot, particularly in the Course in Miracles talks, is that both yes and no are the loving response. And the easiest way, everyone gets this when I say, if there's a little kid and they really, really, really want to touch the stove, is yes the loving response? No, the answer is no, you cannot touch the stove, you're going to burn yourself, right? And that's the response any loving mother would do. If the mother was standing in the kitchen and going, yeah, of course you can touch the stove, you'd be going, oh my God, that's a psychopath, right? And those are the points in your emotional and spiritual development where you have to understand that if you say yes to something consistently when you really in your heart mean no, you're being a bit of a psychopath. Right? The emotions that should kick in, the integrity, the responsibility, the healthy guilt, not the shame, but the actual belief that if I do this, there are negative consequences, right, should kick in. If that doesn't kick in, there's something going wrong, right? It's like this part of your brain that's like, oh, I can run off a cliff, and then another part of you is like, no, you can't. Yeah, you're not allowed to damage your body in that way. And that's a healthy thing to have. When you're high on drugs and you think, oh, I can run off a cliff, does that part of your brain kick in sometimes? Is that a dangerous thing? Yeah? Emotional abuse is just as dangerous as physical abuse. You are covered in bruises if you're being emotionally abused on a regular basis. There is damage done to both the prefrontal cortex, the limbic system of the brain, your ability to regulate yourself. You are up to 75% more likely to get Alzheimer's, cancer, infections if you are being subjected to emotional abuse on a regular basis. Okay? If you don't believe me, read John Gottman's work. It's scientifically proven. Okay, you just can't see it on the body, but you've got bruises on an emotional level. The same way that most people would say no to being physically abused, it's important to learn to say no to being emotionally abused. We're in emotional dark ages at the moment, so most people don't know how to set boundaries. My mum, in this sense, she's brilliant. When Todd and I were going through a hard patch a couple of years ago, she sent me this book in the post, which I was telling Wiggzaro about earlier, which was called Dealing with Tantrums for Toddlers. And I was like, Mum, why did you send me this book? I was feeling a bit like she was being very condescending. And she said to me, it's no different. She's like, when you throw a tantrum or when he throws a tantrum, what do you do when a kid throws a tantrum? And I'm like, well, you know, I tell them that their behavior isn't okay, and then I stand my ground. And she's like, why do you do that? And it's like, because they're learning how to neuroregulate, they're learning how to deal with their own difficult emotions and how to create, you know, neural pathways that mean that they can. And because if I don't, you know, it's really cute when they're a toddler, but it's not cute when they're, you know, 5'4" and they're scaring you, right? And she was like, it's the exact same thing with a person, but we have different standards for children than we have for adults, and that's wrong. Okay? If you weren't taught it as a kid, you won't know it as an adult, not unless you've made the decision to learn. Does that make sense to everybody? And if you're wired that way, like if you have to understand that it's a chemical, it's physiological reaction in the body. So if every single time, let's say I face an emotional challenge, if in my family it was normal that every time someone did something wrong, someone screamed and shouted and punished somebody else, right? I learned that every time someone does something wrong, I have the belief that they deserve to be punished. I have the belief that that's the only way that I'm safe. I have the belief, and on top of that, I have an emotional addiction to histamine, cortisol, adrenaline. Does that make sense to everybody? Mm-hmm. When you're trying to change those kinds of behavior in the past, when you've looked at yourself and said, I don't want to do this anymore, did it or did it not take at least a couple of weeks before the emotion changed, right? Your actions changed before your emotions caught up. Does that make sense? Yeah? When you're with a partner and they're trying to change, and you can tell, like let's say you started a fight with them or something, that they don't feel quite sincere, that they're saying what you want to hear, do you or do you not turn around to them and go, you don't mean it, you're just saying what I want to hear? When they're just at that stage where they've managed to change their behavior, but inside they still feel the same as they felt before. Yeah? That's not helpful. That hurts because they're doing the best they can and it's still not quite perfect, but they're still in that bridge in between two different behaviors. Does that resonate with everybody? Yeah? So it's a very important thing to understand is that it takes time to master a new skill and it takes practice. Right? So would you guys like to know that it takes time and practice to master a new skill? Right? And how to give yourselves and your soulmates time to master those new skills? And how to support them in that space and how to support yourself in that space? And how to do that without criticizing yourself or rushing them or forcing them to improve faster?
Yes.
Yeah? And what it feels like to actually feel like warmth and humor as they're learning, the same way you would as if you were looking at a kid trying really hard to do better. Yeah? So, okay, so let's go down. So, if you had a similar experience, if you have trouble setting boundaries, I'm going to do a few downloads for you. So just say yes after each one if you'd like them, okay? So if you had a similar experience, would you like Creator to teach your energy that it's over now and you can release the trauma of being controlled, rejected and misunderstood by your parents when they set boundaries?
Yes.
Yeah? Our soul often had positive intentions behind creating or obligations with other people and setting up these experiences. Common virtues that people hope to attain through having rejection and control and problems with boundaries are the virtues of generosity, strength, conviction, kindness, self-love, caring, integrity and compassion. Would you like Creator's definition of these things, to align your definition with Creator's, to know you can have these virtues and practice them without carrying pain and suffering to remind you?
Yes.
Yeah? When we experience so much pain and suffering, we can overcompensate in ways by being kind and generous in situations that are not appropriate. For example, giving to people who take advantage. Would you like the discernment about when to give, what to give, how to give, and how to not allow yourself to be guilted into giving more than you're comfortable with?
Yes.
Yeah? Would you like to know how to live without rejection and what it feels like to know that it's possible and that you can and you do now?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah? Would you like to know how to resolve conflicts with your partner through genuine, deep communication, through conversation? How to respect what they say before they have to get angry or force themselves on you? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah? Can I release the need to create drama in the relationship to prove that you're loved or to prove that they love you?
Yes.
Yeah? And can I teach you how to live with the addiction to adrenaline, histamine and cortisol on a cellular level?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah? And can I undo the conflicts between masculine and feminine gender?
Yes.
Yeah? And also the belief that you're not supposed to be accountable to your soulmate.
Yes.
And the confusion of anyone that you're accountable with, your parents or with your boss. And can I teach you that it's all right to be accountable to your soulmate?
Yes.
And to your children? and how to express the way to deal with that fallibility in the highest and best way.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Would you like to know that you can have plenty of love, to know what it feels like, to know that it's possible, and to know that you already do right now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So the reason I put this one in is that a lot of people are constantly trying to make their partner prove to them how much they love them. If you did this, if you don't do this, then you don't love me. If you don't do that, and it's an obligation, and it's also a test. So would you like to know how to live without constantly forcing your partner to prove their love to you?
Yes.
And would you like to know how to live without constantly testing other people's love?
Yes.
And to just know that you are lovable and that you can experience that love and enjoy that love without having to constantly have it shown in your face that they love you?
Yes.
Yeah? Any questions about that one?
No.
Okay. Okay. So I'm just going to give you a few more downloads. So I have Creator's perspective, definition, understanding of a soulmate. I know how to attract a soulmate, how to date a soulmate, how to maintain a healthy relationship with my soulmate in the highest and best way. Would you like that?
Yes.
I know it's okay to be spiritual, sensual, sexy, and still have good discernment in a soulmate relationship.
Yes.
I know how to have discernment when I'm being sexual with my soulmate partner.
Yes.
Yeah? I know the difference between sex and love.
Yes.
I know the difference between lust and love.
Yes.
I know how to be in a relationship without using sex to manipulate my partner
Yes.
and without being manipulated by my partner's sexual energy. If I get extra ones coming downloaded, I'll just say them out loud, and they're not up here, but I'll put them in for when I send them to you, the slides. I know how to and what it feels like to receive, accept, and share love with my soulmate.
Yes.
I know how to share my life, friends, family, children, time, room, bed, house, toilet, and emotions in the highest and best way, how to live with and enjoy my daily life with another person.
Yes.
Yeah? How many people struggle with that one? How to share their life with another person? How to fit everything in? Would you like to know how to have space for everything?
Yes.
Yeah? And how to organize your life so that everyone feels like they're loved and respected in the highest and best way?
Yes.
And can I pull the belief that you can't have everything?
Yes.
Because it's a really important thing for you to realize that if you're sitting at your desk thinking, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to do what I need to do, I'm not going to be able to be there for them and work and potentially take care of kids and have my divine life purpose, that you're creating not having enough time and space to do everything you need to do. Yeah? Would you like to know how to communicate and show love to someone that you're in love with?
Yes.
Would you like to know how to make love and be attracted to the person that you're in love with?
Yes.
Would you like to understand how to leave the energies of past relationships behind you? To know how to create oxytocin at the end of relationships without having to have sex with other people?
Yes.
Yeah? So when you start a relationship, you create oxytocin. That's why many women fall in love when they have sex. But when you leave, people who are able to leave healthy relationships also create oxytocin at the end of a relationship. Okay? I don't know why this is. I believe it's because of self-love. Okay, so when they love themselves, they create oxytocin. People who weren't taught how to self-love and how to self-regulate don't have this. So those are the people that normally are like, oh my God, we broke up a week ago and he's sleeping with everyone, right? He doesn't have this oxytocin, he can't switch it off. So if you don't have that, you have two options until you change your hormonal, either through theta or through another sort of healing. You either sleep with someone else or you constantly try and get back together with that person. All right? If you have self-respect, you're not going to do that. But those people who are obsessed with a partner they had 2 or 3 years ago, it's because they never managed to produce that oxytocin and break off. Does that resonate with everyone? And that's a mark of not being taught how to self-regulate by your parents. They didn't know how to regulate, they couldn't teach you. So it's not that they don't love you, it's just that they don't have that oxytocin button. So would you guys like to know how to produce oxytocin at the end of a relationship?
Yes.
Yeah? And like the cellular and hormonal and genetic adaptations that you require for that to come into place.
Yes.
Yeah? And that it's safe for you to do that and for you to be able to allow someone to leave when they're ready to leave without having to shame them or humiliate them or hurt them for that to happen.
Yes.
Would you like to know how to remain friends with people after you've finished relationship with them?
Yes.
And that it's safe to do that.
Yes.
And how to be in those relationships with your exes without ever using it to try and make your partner feel jealous or without trying to get leverage in the current relationship.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Would you like to know how to live with someone without dominating or controlling them? Would you like to know how to be in a relationship without replaying past relationship patterns?
Yes.
Without comparing your current soulmate with past partners?
Yes.
Would you like to know how to have a relationship without making someone your father, your mother, or your sibling?
Yes.
Yeah, that one's a great one. That one really helped me a lot. Oh, okay. So I'm going to go backwards just a little bit so we can have something up here. So the other thing that comes up very, very often in soulmate relationships is subconscious fears that we've forgotten that we even had. So one of the big issues, the things that come up most often, codependency and narcissism, abandonment, okay? So I'll go through those three first, and then anybody else have anything in particular that they want addressed without having to go into personal stuff? No? Okay. So, okay, so I'll do one from this week, because this is relevant for somebody in here. So I'll actually do what happens if you can't even get off the ground. Okay, so if you date somebody for a few dates and stuff, and it doesn't seem to manifest into more, because for spiritual people, there's some very interesting stuff around that I've been looking into this week. So in past lives, and it's a very very interesting thing for you to. Let's actually do a bit of muscle testing. So pop your hand like this for me. Okay. Now, when you muscle test, and this is one of the easiest ways to do it, you say yes, 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 and your fingers should remain close together if it's true, and no, 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 and it should come out if it's a no. Okay, so yes, 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 no, no, no. Okay, and what you're using is your body to bypass your conscious nervous system and go into your parasympathetic nervous system to test things. Okay, so basic things are really, so if you say, I'm a man or I'm a woman, and for me, I'm a woman, so it's a yes. I'm a spiritual healer, it's a yes. If I say my name is Todd, it's a no, right? Because it's not Todd. So you can muscle test for these. So just quickly muscle test for me. I feel abandoned by my partner. Yeah? It's all right if you don't get this right now. You'll learn as we go along, and the more you practice, the easier it becomes. Muscle test for me. I deserve a soulmate. Yeah, see? Right.
Sorry, so
Yes,
I
darling?
deserve a soulmate, for example. If it doesn't go through, is it a yes or no?
Yes. It's a yes if it doesn't go through. It's a no if it does go through.
So does it mean I believe that I deserve a soulmate?
Yes. You can also have dual beliefs. So you can have, let's try this one for fun. My Anna Kitney always does this one. She's my teacher, it's one of the best ones. So muscle test, I love myself, right? Then say, I hate myself. How many people have both? Yeah? So that can happen as well. So you can have the belief, I deserve a soulmate, and then muscle test, I don't deserve a soulmate, and see if it's is it yes too?
Sorry, I deserve a soulmate.
Yeah, and then I don't deserve a soulmate. Is it yes for both?
Yes.
Because you have a dual belief, all right?
Do you actually, when you ask yourself that question, do you think it mentally, or do you actually say it out loud? Does it make a difference?
It makes a difference when you say it out loud. You can get away with just saying it mentally as long as you say it loud in your mind, because it's the vibration of sound. Does that make sense to everybody? When I say it out loud, I'm actually using the law of sound. So it's actually a frequency, it's a vibration. And it creates a different chemistry in my body. The same way that if I play a singing bowl, it changes the shape of the water. If I say something out loud, it changes the shape of my cells. So if I don't say it out loud, sometimes the water in my body is at the vibration of the last thing I was thinking instead of what I'm actually muscle testing for. Okay. Does that make sense to everybody? So as long as you say it loudly in your mind, it's actually normally powerful enough to change the vibe that your body's holding, and you're actually muscle testing for that belief instead of what you were thinking 5 minutes ago or talking about.
Do you have to actually understand it intellectually first before, or it's just saying it out loud?
Is it all?
It's just,
okay, you don't.
body's reaction.
You don't have to. Muscle testing is incredibly powerful. If you want to know more about it, there's a really amazing book called Power versus Force. Okay, and that's by the man who created muscle testing. It explains in depth how it works, where it came from, the different experiments that they did, why they came up with it, because it's incredibly high integrity. It's a really beautiful book. It's a bit of a dry start, but it gets very, very good as it goes on. And it's not a big book. But what he explains, and what I think is, as a metaphysical principle, you and I appear to be separate in body, but we're not. We know according to physics that you and I aren't really separate at all, right? Never mind if you think about metaphysical principles, we're all one. So on an intellectual level, I can think, oh, you can't really hear what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling. On a spiritual level, you are what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling. Does that make sense? Yeah? So when I'm doing muscle testing, I can actually muscle test for you, which is how I knew Monica had dual beliefs. And I can do it without even using my hands. I just literally commanded myself, and I used theta to learn how to use my parasympathetic nervous system. And to me it feels different. My spine feels different when I say something, if it's true or if it's not true. Does that make sense? The only time I'll really use muscle testing like this with myself nowadays is if I know I'm sabotaging myself. Okay? Because then I know I'm playing games. But when I can really feel like there's a deep resonance, I don't. Because I can really feel if it's true or if it's not true when I say it. Just because of the way it makes my body feel. But I did a lot of downloads, and you can do this as well. You know, what it knows how to feel like and be connected with your body. You know, how to feel how your body is responding to someone's conversation before basically how to muscle test with your body. Because your body's constantly telling you whether something's true or not true all the time. You know, this just helps the connection get stronger. And in the beginning, it helps get that pattern of constantly checking in with your body. You're constantly checking in, as opposed to you check in after the fact or only during a healing session. Or does that make sense to everybody? And it also teaches you how to trust your body, like really trust it, not like a little or as an intellectual concept, like you really start to trust your body, which is so healing for so many people, because they may have really like strong feelings of hatred towards their body, especially if they've been ill. So when you muscle test these things, you can have dual beliefs. So I'll give you an example. So let's say, I'll give you an example from me. So when I was younger, I had a really serious physical illness. So I had IBS, I had an underactive thyroid, I had 2 or 3 urine infections all the time, and I actually had inflammation in my intestines. Okay? So I had this really strong subconscious belief because of those illnesses that I was weak and that I was a victim. Does that make sense to everybody? At the same time, I was very clever at school. Okay, I was really good at passing exams. And very quickly when I was 17, 18, especially in university, I was very good at debating, and often I was very good at healing other people. So I had both the belief at the same time that I was weak and I was strong. Does that make sense to everybody? And they were in different places. So typically around relationships, I would manifest illness and weakness, but in my career, I would manifest strength and likability. Right? I needed to manifest it everywhere, but I couldn't figure out how I could do so well in one area and not well in another. And that's dual beliefs. And a lot of very successful people have that. They have the belief that they're lovable, that they're acceptable in a work environment because they had that at school. Does that make sense to everybody? But what their home environment was like was very different. So it's important to muscle test in different areas because the way you show up is different in different areas. Does that resonate with everyone? Yeah? So when you're in a soulmate, or like I was saying, the abandonment issues, you can have a belief, for example, with your father that your, men abandon you, and a belief that your friends will always be there. Right? So you can have a very strong group of friends, but a very disconnected relationship. You can have very strong loyalty to your friends and not a very strong relationship. Anybody ever been in a relationship where your partner had a better connection with his friends than he did to you? Yeah? It doesn't happen, that often, but it can happen. And you can hear, particularly in more ordinary relationships, like where healing and stuff isn't involved, and the man goes off to watch the football at the pub, and he spends hours talking to his friends and less than 5 minutes talking to his wife. Yeah? And that stuff comes from having a dual belief. That I can connect, that it's safe for me to connect with friends, but it wasn't safe to connect with women or with mothers or with... Does that make sense to everybody? And then those beliefs collide. Yeah?
You were saying something about spiritual people not taking a relationship off the ground.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I had a very interesting couple of clients this week, and I was working with people who were consistently going on dates, and either the person wouldn't get back in touch, or the relationship would start and then it would be sabotaged before it got off the ground. And both of those people had lifetimes where, it's going to sound interesting, but it was just true, it's just what came up. Both of those people had lifetimes where they'd been spiritual teachers, so they'd been like, a priestess or in very high positions of power as a spiritual being. And the only reason that they ever brought in their soulmates was so that they could have children. And in ancient Greek temples, and ancient Egyptian temples, and in Aztec temples, this was actually done. But you were never going to be allowed to have a long-term relationship with that person. Does that make sense to everybody? The whole purpose was so that your bloodline would be preserved. Because those cultures didn't have beliefs like the Hindu culture did in reincarnation. So they were getting your genetics straight through the childbirth process. And that was why people say, oh, they're the daughters of Isis, or they're the daughters of different gods and goddesses. The idea was that someone would be brought in, and they would, basically they'd be around until you got pregnant, and then they'd be taken away again, because they would interfere with your purpose as a spiritual teacher. Does that resonate with everybody? Yeah? You can also, and that was what came up this week, but you can also have vows of celibacy. So you can have lifetimes where you're a monk or a nun, and you just decided that sex and spirituality didn't mix. So you have a conflict between your spirituality and your sexuality on a DNA level. Would you like those resolved? Mm-hmm. Yeah? And a lot of people have the belief that, particularly, men and women who are spiritual, that, having children is a burden or is a punishment, and it's God's punishment for them having the pleasure of sex. So can I pull that from you? Yeah? And can I give you Creator's truth and perspective about that? Yes. And can I teach you that, children are a blessing, not a burden? And that sex is a blessing, not a burden? Yes. Yeah? And how to relate to that without ever having to think you're being punished in any way, shape or form? Yes. Yeah? And can I release you from the need to punish your partner for being in a sexual, intimate relationship with you? Yes. Yes. Or blame them for arousing your sexual side? Yes. Yeah? Can I release any beliefs that sexuality is shallow, superficial? Yes. And can I release the belief that sex is not love? Yes. Yeah? Yes. And can I teach you the difference between lust and love? Yes. And at the same time, how to recognize when someone is using sex to manipulate you? Yes. Yeah? And to teach you that sex can be used in unloving ways, but that sex is still 99% of the time an expression of love. Yes. Yeah? So a lot of people say to me, sex isn't love, all my partner wants to do is have sex. And it's like, well, would you be upset if you went and had sex with someone else? And they're like, yes. I was like, why? And it's like, because it's the most intimate, they must mean that he loves them. He loves someone more than me, right? So it's a contradictory belief. Sex is a very loving thing. It's a very intimate thing. It involves physical, emotional, and spiritual connection. Literally, it's where life is created. If you go back to the womb, it's where you're born. It's where life force sparks into being. On the other hand, it has been used for many, many years to hurt people or to cause trauma, whether it's through wars and through rape, whether it's through the difference of the genders and financial abuse through people being married off and all sorts of other things. So there's the belief that, especially for women, that were they good breeding, were they of bad breeding, all it was about was whether or not they provide you with the right kind of children, whether or not they were good for childbearing, which created this really deep subconscious resentment in a lot of women towards having sex or making love, and this belief that sex isn't love. It's just they're basically there to be used by this guy to provide his next generation or his heirs. Yeah? So if you have that, can I remove that? Yes. Yeah? And can I teach you that that's over? Yes. And in this lifetime you're not being used just to bear children or be of the right breeding for a man? Yes. Yeah? And can I release the belief that you're property? Yes. Yeah? And teach you that you are completely sovereign over your own body? Yes. And that if and when you choose to have children with a man, that you can do it in the highest and best way? Yes. For your own blessings and for his? Yes. And can I also remove the belief that you have to be really rich in order to be able to have children? Yes. To be allowed to have children? Thank you. Because a lot of people who were servants or who were in service, and particularly if you look at Brazil, India, where there's still a very strong class system, poor people aren't allowed to have children. They're not allowed to get married. Right? So then you still have that conscious belief, I'm not allowed to attract a soulmate until I start making lots of money. I have to be in service. And people say that a lot, like how many people have heard in seminars, you have to be in service, your job is to be of service. Right? And that triggers lifetimes where being in service meant that you lived in the house of a rich person, you probably lived in the servants' rooms or in the basement, you did it for your whole life, you weren't allowed out to date, you weren't allowed your own hours, you got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, you cleaned out the fireplaces, but you were literally the servant of someone for your whole life. Does that make sense to everybody? Right? And a lot of people lived that way. Before the Second World War, the majority of the population lived that way. Okay? So it still brings up a lot of stuff in that way. And a lot of spiritual people have that belief that they can't have a spiritual partner for a long period of time, and that if they do, it's only for a short amount of time. They can only have the child and then continue with their life purpose because their partner would get in the way. Todd used to make me laugh with that, because when we first started going out, he used to say to me, "You're a distraction." And I used to say to him, "No, I'm an attraction." And that's the contradictory belief. Is that when you think, "Oh, they're distracting me from my purpose or from my work," that's exactly like the belief that your partner will get in the way. And that can be that women or men get in the way of your work. And it's rubbish. You know, people don't get in the way. If they're constantly coming up and disturbing you right before you want to do an event or doing your purpose, chances are you've obligated them to bug you in some way. Right? And normally it's so that because you're scared you're not going to be successful, or because you want reassurance that they're not going to leave you if you are successful. Okay? So this is the kind of like the last things I'm going to cover with you, and then we'll do a bit of channeling and question that. Sound like plan to everybody? I'll let everybody go to the toilet, because I feel like some of you need to go to the toilet, and then we'll do a bit of channeling. But what I also see a lot in intimate relationships is that people gain weight when they get into an intimate relationship, because as a way to stop their partner from being jealous, or reassure their partner that they won't cheat. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah, it's a way of them being like, "Oh, you know, maybe if I'm not as sexually attractive, this won't be an issue, or my partner won't be jealous or controlling if I'm slightly bigger." That's a big deal. It's not a small deal. So would you like to know how to be in a long-term intimate relationship with a soulmate and still be sexually attractive and be loyal to your partner?
Yes.
Yeah? And would you like to be with a partner that knows how to be loyal to you without putting on excess weight or damaging their body to prove their loyalty to you in any way, shape or form?
Yes.
Yeah? The other one that can come up a lot is we agree subconsciously, like I was saying earlier, to take on the energy of an intimate partner instead of setting healthy boundaries, and that can lead to illness. Okay, your body's not made to process other people's energies, it's made to process your own. Creator's energy is powerful enough to heal and resolve any issues inside the relationship. Okay, but your body is not capable of holding on to all of their resentment and your resentment. Okay, so one of the most powerful prayers, one of the most powerful healings you can do in an intimate soulmate relationship, if you see your partner either having an addiction or having a quality like jealousy or anger or anxiety or depression that you really see is harming them, start affirming over and over again that you see them without that and they are free. So I see them without their jealousy and they are free. I see them without jealousy and they are free. Don't say anything to them. Don't try and fix them. Start addressing it on a spiritual level, because it's a spiritual disease. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah? And then normally at some point they'll turn around to you and go, "I really don't want to be this angry anymore. I really don't want to be this jealous anymore." And then it actually sometimes it starts to disappear very, very quickly. Does that resonate? Mm-hmm. Yeah? So it's just recognizing that whenever you have a partner in your life that doesn't seem to be vibrating at the same frequency than you, it's also because you're holding it on some level. One of the people that I did a healing session for this week, she was a very powerful goddess type figure in a lifetime. Like many hundreds of thousands of people traveled to, like literally did pilgrims to see her and be healed by her. And one of the things that came up was that she really had disowned her jealousy. So to her, she was never jealous, she was never angry, she was never upset. But she met a lot of women who were jealous of her. Right? She met a lot of people who were jealous of her. Does that make sense to everybody? Mm-hmm. Because she disowned that part. And when I tuned in deeper and I was like, why did she disown that part? In that lifetime, she'd killed people because she was jealous of them. Okay? So in her brain, it meant if I get jealous, I can harm somebody. Jealousy is the most common reason for intimate murders in this country and across the world. It's actually, it's so common that it's actually in the law system a crime of passion. Right? So how many people do you think project their jealousy onto other people instead of owning it themselves? It's a lot of people, right? Because they don't know how to handle that emotion with integrity. So when you're looking at dealing with those, especially with those feelings, if you want to be with a soulmate that you find attractive and handle jealousy in a different way, those are downloads that you really have to consider doing. Does that make sense? Yeah? So would you guys like to know how to acknowledge and accept your own jealousy? Yeah, how to know when you're jealous and how to surrender it to Creator in the highest and best way.
Yes.
Yeah? And would you like to know that jealousy can be healed?
Yes.
and that it can be instantly healed.
Yes.
And that it can be healed through sending unconditional love to whatever was the source of that jealousy in the first place.
Yes.
And that there is no lack. Yeah? And would you like to know the difference between projecting your jealousy and when somebody is actually sexually or emotionally betraying you with someone else?
Yes.
Yeah? And would you like to know how to change the behaviors, the ways in which you block love, block giving your soulmate significance and importance so that they have to go and try and get that from someone else?
Yes.
Yeah? Thank you. So, we'll stop here for a 5-minute toilet break and then we come back and we can do questions and answers. Sound like a plan?
Yes.
Yeah? There's water in the kitchen with crystals and all sorts if you want. And feel free to help yourselves to tea.